Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing a swimming tutorial. So we're going to be doing the full set. We're going to be doing swimming on the surface, and we are going to do some basic animations. I don't have any animations at the moment because this is just a test level. We're going to be able to swim underwater and, you know, swim through caves. May even have some breathing logic, if that's something you're interested in, like as in like recovering air. And we're also gonna be able to leave water, like jump out of it. So let's get started, shall we? I'm gonna go ahead, and this scene is available on the Dreamiverse, so you can go ahead and remix it if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now to make a after version. So this scene is pretty basic. It's just all visuals right now. There's no functions or anything like that. It's just a fog, a text displayer right here, text displayer here, and some lights. So first things first is we want a way to tell if our player is above the water, or more accurately is on the surface of the water, so they don't over extend, like they're going up, so they're only able to go up if there is water above them, which means they're not on the surface. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and get a sculpt to do that. So we're going to go ahead and go to modes, sculpt mode, and we're going to take out a square shape cube, and I'm going to place it so it's just barely under our water level. I'm going to do L1 and square to open up our shape edit mode, and I'm going to go ahead and extend it out to our water. So we have this one and this one, so I'm going to extend it out so it covers both of these. And I'm also going to make it all the way loose because we don't really care what it looks like. We're going to stamp in place. I'm going to exit the mode. And if anything, I'm going to decrease the detail because we don't care about it. We just care about the physics of it. So we're going to go ahead and open up properties, and we're going to go to physical properties. We don't want it visible and we don't want it collidable. And then we're going to go to our labels and ownership, and this really depends on what labels you're using in your scene already, but I'm going to use machine, and this label is going to be what our laser scope detects, and the laser scope is going to find the surface of the water for us. So we're going to go ahead and close this now. And next we want to be able to tell when our player is in the water. So what we can do now is basically kind of the same thing, but inverted. We want something to detect the player, specifically something in the player, that lets the player know that they're in water. So we're going to get a trigger zone from our sensors and input section of our gadgets menu. And we're going to go ahead and place it down in the water. I'm going to open it up, or select it, and then open it up with L1 and square. Go to zone size, and I'm going to change it to a cube. And then we want to make our, we want our shape to have the green bit right below the surface of the water. It's kind of hard to tell if you got it properly, but there it is. Got it. Then we're going to extend the bottom down, so below, all the way down where you think the deepest of your water is. So it's pretty deep for me. And then I'm going to extend X for zone size, and then Z for zone size as well. Now it should cover basically anything below ground level. You can of course make different zones if your water is more advanced than this, so you don't have things in where they shouldn't be. For example, if there was like a hill here, they would walk down into the zone and they'd start swimming. So you can refine it with additional zones, but since it's really simple, we just need this one. And we're going to open up the properties again, and we're going to, on the first page, we want to change the things to detect to be a tag. And we're going to go ahead and type this in right now, and we're just going to type in swimming. And so we're going to look for the swimming tag, and when we find the swimming tag, we are going to, well, this is going to activate, and it's also going to activate the tag itself that it senses. So if we open up the properties of our puppet, we're going to go and open up the puppet logic, the base. And the first thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and organize the logic. So we're going to get out a microchip from our logic or gadgets or logic and processing section. Yes, that was correct. And we're going to go ahead and label it and do all the colors and stuff properly. So I'm going to make it blue for swimming, water, give it this wind icon, and then name it swimming. Alright. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it. And we want to get a couple of nodes in here so we get easy access to controls. So I'm going to go do that right now. We want a node for left stick. And then we want a node for going down. And a node for going up. And I think I'm going to reverse these. So up is above down. There we go. So now we have left stick, up, and down. And now we want to get that tag that we talked about earlier. So we're going to go to the sensors and input section, tag, place that down here. Add the property to this, and then of course we want to call this swimming as well. Swimming, there we go. And now if we jumped in this pool of water, this would light up, but nothing would really happen at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and get the controls we want. So the left stick is for movement, of course. And then we're going to open up the properties, and I want circle to make us go down and X to make us go up. But we already have circle bound to depossess, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that wire. Again, it's like right here, just coming out of the circle output. Then I also want the puppet to be force possessed on the important properties page, so they are automatically possessed when you start playing the game. Because it doesn't really matter any other way. Like, he's the only puppet in the scene, so might as well. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to get a advanced mover from our movers and output section. And what this is going to do, this is actually going to move us around. We really only need this one mover here because it does everything we want. We're going to go ahead and open the properties of this. We're going to set the movement strength to 100%. You're going to set the damp in X to be about 80%, and the damp in Z to be 80%, and the damp in Y. If you want like the character to sink to the bottom, then you wouldn't want this at 100%. But since we are just giving full control to the player, we're going to set it to 100%. And we're probably going to want to slow the speed down significantly. So X and Z is going to be our like regular movement, and then Y is going to be up and down. So we're going to set the X speed and the Z speed to be about, let's say 3.5 meters a second. So it's somewhere between running on land and walking. And going up and down, we want that to be pretty slow, so we'll give that like 2 meters a second. So some of you may be wondering if you have any any amount of knowledge about movers and stuff if we're going to be using local space or not. Well, the answer is no, because we can actually use the camera modified left stick just to simplify our outputs here on our controller to get the results we want if we don't have it set to local space. Because this, since it's in both X and Z, which is this way and this way, but not this way, since it's camera modified, it will actually be what we want. So we're going to go ahead and split our left stick with a splitter from our logic and processing section. And let's see here. There we go. So we have left and right and up and down. So we want to go ahead and do left and right to X and up and down to Z. If we go ahead and play, well, we're going to hook up the swimming tag to our power port on our advanced mover first. And we're going to go ahead and play. And now we're kind of moving around. We're bouncing up and down. The reason why we're bouncing is because we actually need to set this swimming tag on the player. So we want to move this point right here, this little gizmo. We're going to move it so it's focused on the player, and we're going to do it basically where the player is going to be hovering. So around above their belly, kind of a little bit above their chest level, like so. It depends on how you want it to look, but that should pretty much get rid of the bouncing. No? But it does work. What's happening? Oh, you know what? I think I know what's happening. I haven't set up anything to the Y speed yet, so I'm going to go ahead and just get a combiner from our logic and processing section. Well, we might as well just do this right now. I mean, it's not that hard. So up is going to be the plus, and then down is going to be the minus, and then we're just going to plug that into our Y. And now we can hop up like so, and we can also go down. You can see, as you can see, we're walking, which is fine for now. Takes quite a while to swim up and down, but hey. But you may notice that we can't get out. Kind of looks lame underwater, and yeah, it's not exactly what you'd expect. There's no animations, nothing of the sort. So we're going to go ahead and get working on that next, because we already have the movement done, so we want to get everything else finished. So next off, we're going to make a duplicate of our swimming tag, and we're going to make this swimming tag above our head, or like at eye level. And this is to apply like visual effects, sound effects, and stuff like that. So we're going to go to Gadgets, and we're going to get a visual gradient effects chip or gadget from our cameras and lighting section. And we're going to go ahead and plug in our swimming output, tag output, to this gradient effects gadget. And we're going to go ahead and see if we can make any decent swimming effects. So we can go to color tinting, and we're going to go ahead and actually tint our shadows and our highlights and midtones and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and modify our, we want to get the gray to be some kind of different color on our gradient effects right here. And I think if we delete this wire, we should be able to see it. Yeah. There we go. So now we get really nice looking underwater look. Don't want it to be too dark. Maybe up the brightness. Lower the contrast a little bit. And move it. Lower saturation or up it. I don't know. I think we're gonna lower it a little bit. Screen effects, we can increase vignette strength. Make it blue. Not sure. There we go. Reduce bloom. Reduce lens flare. Or would there be more lens flare? I don't know. I'm not sure. We'd blur it a little bit. Less motion. I mean, default motion blur. Doesn't really matter. Give it a slight pincushion, maybe. Negative pincushion. The fisheye lens. And yeah, that looks pretty nice for an underwater effect. And immediately you can see a complete difference there. And next, let's get some audio differences. So we're gonna go to the sound section. I haven't touched this that much, but we can use this to get like sounds and modify them. This is a mixer. That's kind of like for, I'm not sure. Delay A, speaker, voice channel, character, background. So there's a lot of channels here. I think we'll do, maybe delay. That's what we want. Short echo. We're gonna give some echo to sounds. Feedback. I'm not sure how this exactly works. I'm not that good of a sound designer, so I think this will give somewhat of an effect just having this. No sound channel unset. Yeah, not sure. If any of you are good at sound, you'd probably know what these do. I don't, so you'll probably find something better than this. Just a standard delay. I don't even know if it's doing anything by being standard, but hey. Next we want to get a jump out effect. So what we want is we want 2 laser scopes, and we also want to label our player. Otherwise our laser scope, well, one of our laser scopes is not going to be able to tell the difference basically between a wall and our player. So we're going to open up the properties of our player, and we're going to go to labels, and we're going to label them friend, and I'm also going to label them target to go with previous tutorials I have. Like, for example, invincibility. If you want your character to be invincible, you want to give them this target label, and when they're invincible, you remove the target, and health modifiers only affect friends and targets. Like, they have to have both labels in order to be affected, and vice versa for enemies, like friends and target. I mean, foe and target, example. Alright. And next, we're going to go ahead and open up our laser scope. We are going to set this up to align with our swimming tag, our normal one, not our effects one. And I'm going to go ahead and move this up here, give it a decent amount of height, and I'm going to move it over a bit. I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as it's in this player vicinity. And we want to go to the label section, and we only want to detect hidden and not collidable things, and then we want to detect machines only. That way we're specifically targeting this object here. And unfortunately we can't use like words, or else we could name this sculpt that we have for the surface, and we could specifically detect that only. You could technically do that with a trigger zone, but I prefer to use laser scopes in this task. So we have this laser scope, and do grid snap in our guide section, and I'm going to have it face down, turn off grid snap, turn on precise move. I'm going to bring it up so it's just below our little ball there, like so. So we have a little bit of wiggle room, and it's above the ball, so we get wiggle room and, of course, preemptive detection, etc. So that's going to detect if we're on the surface or not, and So we will actually want to, we're going to label this surface. And next we are going to move over this combiner. And we want to get a NOT gate in our logic and processing section. And an AND gate as well. And of course, you probably can think, okay, so when we're on the surface, we don't want to go up. So when we're not on the surface, we can go up. So we go and move out things a bit, space it out so we have room to work. Be a little bit more organized. And we're going to delete this wire coming from the up, because we want to use the output of our AND gate. So when we're pressing up and we're not on the surface, then we can actually move up in the water. I'm gonna move this up as well. Just seem not to have enough room. I mean, I can extend it, but I like to have our microchips as cozy as possible. So I'm gonna organize the wires a little bit. Alright, yep, it's only 2. And of course next we want another laser scope. I'm going to move it over here. And this one is going to be wall. So it's going to detect a wall in front of the player. If my keyboard will work. There it is. And when it detects the wall and it detects the surface, we will be able to jump up. So what we're going to do is we're going to get another AND gate. I'm going to place it like so. Maybe move back our wires a little bit so we know where they're going. I'm going to plug in the wall output of our laser scope and then the surface laser scope as well. And of course, when we press the up button, we're going to jump up. So we're going to get that wire and we're going to just tidy it up a little bit like so. I think that looks nice. Looks at least fair. Better than what it looked like before. So there we go. And next we are going to get a force applier and also a signal manipulator. So the force applier is in our movers and output section, and the signal manipulator is in our logic and processing section right here. And we only want to really jump for a split second. So we're gonna open up our signal manipulator. We're gonna change it to pulse on input on, and we're gonna do a smooth fall. So what this does, it instantly turns on and takes 0.3 seconds in order to turn off. So we get a nice up and down shape. And the AND gate is going to plug into our signal manipulator. And the signal manipulator will plug into our force applier. Next, we're going to go ahead and open up our force applier. Properties on this, we're going to go to the zone size. We're going to set it to a cube. And we want to confine this to basically the player model. So we're going to subtract the size a bit. Shrink it as much as you can. Or as much as you prefer. And then I'm going to go to labels, and we're going to make it so only visible and collidable things, and we only want to apply to friends, which is our player. On the labels tab, so just have friends selected. Then on important properties, we're going to go ahead and make it 100% force strength, and we're going to do about 7.5 meters per second. And you can do L1 and square now to set most, if not all, values. I know there is some bugginess. Like these, for example, the zone size, you can't do it, but on most of them, you can. And of course, force mode is going to be push, and we want it to be directional. And we want this arrow to be facing upwards, so we're going to be pushing our player up. Alright. So now, when we're pushing up against a wall, and we press up, and we're on the surface, we are going to be jumping up. And of course, our wall, we haven't set the wall laser scope up properly. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to just move it down a bit. Make it face towards the correct direction. And I'm going to extend it a little bit. Not too far, but enough that we can actually detect the wall at a considerable distance. And I'm going to open up the properties of this, and then we want to go to the labels. And we actually want to detect pretty much everything except for friends and targets. I guess foes, you don't have to detect that either, unless you're using that for the walls here for some reason. I'm not doing that though, so. And we of course want it visible and collidable for our wall laser scope. So now, should be able to go ahead and jump in. Not sure why I'm able to jump right now. Is that like just the player jumping? Surface, oh. Oh? Why is this not detecting the surface? It's not collidable. Should be. Huh. That is strange. Maybe it's the model quality. Yeah, let's see if it's the model quality. I'm gonna increase the detail. Yep, that was it for some reason. So you don't want to decrease the detail too much, or else apparently laser scopes won't be able to hit it. So I'm going to turn back on preview visibility. So now, as you can see, we are detecting the surface, so we can't go up any further. And now when we're at the wall and we press X to go up, we jump out. Of course, it's not going to work everywhere, which is fine. Really depends on your environment. And then once we go underwater, everything shifts blue. Again, I'm not 100% on the sound, because I'm not a sound guy, so yeah. Alright, so now, next up will be animations. Got plenty of time. So, I guess this is kind of an impromptu animation tutorial now, or at least a animation controller tutorial. So we have our swimming setup and everything of the like. So we probably want to detect when we are underwater and when we are on the surface. So we can have two different animations, or really, well, yeah, you want two different animations. You want, well, you want a movement animation and you want an idle animation. And you also want to turn off the puppet's default animations. So we're going to get a keyframe out. And this keyframe, I'm going to just place it pretty close to our swimming keyframe here, or tag. I'm going to go ahead and start recording, open up the properties of the puppet, go to behavior. I'm going to turn off procedural animation and procedural walk. And next, we're going to go ahead and plug in the normal swimming tag, the one at the waistline, or not waistline, but chest line, into the keyframe right here. And this is just to turn off default animations. You don't always have to do this, but this is going to prevent like jumping animations and stuff like that from happening. And let's see here. like the jumping, I think we also want to set the jump to be 0. Jump height on the first page. So that way we can't jump when we hit the bottom of the pool, which we're going to be doing a lot of. And then we want another keyframe. And this keyframe is to change the physical size of the puppet. So when we are swimming, let's get the idle animation, or at least one frame of it done. So I'm going to go ahead and get our timeline here. And I'm going to be doing the animation kind of lazy, as in like I'm going to be doing it using the IK. If you are planning on having like attack animations layer over the swimming animation, then you will probably want to watch some of my animation tutorials, but I basically say that you set up a keyframe, and with this keyframe you just record the default pose. So if we open this keyframe up, scope in, we just record the default pose of every single part in the puppet, and like including like the arms, the hip, and everything like that. And then once you and then when you want to record a pose, what you do is you actually set the actual pose of the puppet, like so. So you get this without recording it. And then you go into your keyframe and record the rotation data only. And this is because positional data is not blendable, as in if you have a position set instead of a rotation, and you can tell the difference from the direction of the lines and the color of the lines. Like this is green and this is yellowish. So it's different kind of data, and rotation data is able to blend with other rotation data. So for example, you can blend an attack animation more easily than more easily with just rotation data rather than positional IK data. And IK data is, if I go to the recording here, is just moving like the hands. So as you can see, the arm follows the position of our hand, and we're just moving the hand. This is IK, or otherwise known as inverse kinematics. And basically this would make it so if you move the other parts of the player, for example the waist, that hand will stay in that position no matter what. So it basically makes it so you can't blend animations that way. So now I'm just going to undo until we have the default pose, because I don't really care about doing it that way for now, because this is pretty simple. And I'm not going to have attack animations. So first things first is we're just doing a singular frame, correct? So we can get the other stuff done correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and move up our legs here, or feet. I'm actually going to make it puppet mirrored. There we go. And I'm going to move up the hands to our waist, or not our waist, but our chest level, where they should be resting on the surface of the water. Like so. So we have kind of a resting state here. And I'm going to copy this out of the timeline for now, because we're going to use this to set, I believe, the position of our collision box. So we're going to get another keyframe from our animate menu, and I'm going to scope out of the puppet And we're going to go ahead and go into our collision shape here. And this is for idling, so we're going to be setting this a little bit smaller. And of course we're going to move it upwards a bit. And the reason why we're shrinking it is because our legs are up off the ground a bit. And that is going to be when we are idling. And then next we want to actually get a keyframe of us swimming forward. So I'm going to place down another timeline. I'm just going to go ahead and place it on here. And of course I'm going to scope into the puppet. Rotate our pelvis forward. And I'm going to go ahead and move the legs backwards. And move the hands forward. So do motion like this pretty much for swimming. Little circles, that's what we're going to end up doing. It's kind of just entertaining myself there. Alright, and you're going to get a... Unfortunately, I'm not sure how this is going to play out for us, because we are basically rotating the cylinder shape, but we can't do that with the actual puppet. So this is going to clip into sides of the wall if you're not careful about it in your animation playing. So I'm going to go to animate. I'm going to get another keyframe here, place it off the timeline, scope out. Of course, I'm going to be doing just moving the height down as much as possible, basically. Pretty much 0%. I'm going to change the width so we get a more out shape to go forward and back. Vertical position, I'm going to lower it a bit. Get even more width. There we go. That's pretty decent to me. Alright. So now when this timeline is playing, and so when we're moving basically, and then when we're idle, we have two different keyframes for the hitbox. Alright, so now we want to decide what we're going to be doing in the animation. Like, for example, when we go up and down and we're moving, what animation do we want to play? When we're idling and we move up and down, what animation do we want to play? I think for this, since we want to just keep it a little bit simple, because this is moreover just a swimming tutorial rather than a full-on animation tutorial, we're just going to do moving up and down doesn't have its own special animation, but moving has a moving animation, and then idling has an idle animation, of course. So there may be a couple of bugs to start off with that I'm predicting. For example, in this keyframe here, you can see that our feet aren't touching the pedestal. So we might want to set it up so we move our player down so their feet are touching it. And we would do the same with this animation, unfortunately, meaning that we'd have to move this this position, which would give us a little bit of a different effect if we do have to do that. I'm not sure, because it may consider this pedestal like the bottom, and That's a lot of room to keep between the player and the bottom of the water. So we might end up having to move that, in which case we'll move our 2 tags here as well. Unfortunately. But hey, it's fine. So what we're going to do next is, let's see, I think it would actually be beneficial to us to have it so when we're moving, we move this keyframe as well. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the timeline again. I'm going to select the keyframe that activates our effects and sound effects, and I'm going to move it to where the head of the player is again, basically. And you can actually, yes, you can animate this gizmo. So now I believe it should only be there when the animation is not active. Did I do this wrong? I think, no. I thought you were able to. I thought you were able to animate the position of this. Apparently not. I swear I've done it before. Okay, it might be a glitch because now it's permanently here and it didn't consider it moved when I was undoing stuff, so I don't know. So let's see, I guess that's fine for now. Let's actually get the animation done. So we're going to do an idle animation. So we have 1 frame and this is going to be our ending frame. I want the idle animation to take about 5 seconds, so we're going to get this frame at the very end as well. And we'll have about, we want to do little circle motions with our feet and our hands. So let's go ahead and get a couple of frames. So I'm just copying the same frame over and over. And we can modify it, the spacing and the amount of frames once we're done. So we have the 2nd frame. I want our arms to move out like so. I guess precise move would be a good idea for this. Try to get it as far out as possible. Well, actually we're going idle. We're not moving anywhere. So we don't want to forward, just like an up and down basically. So like spiral. Not like not exactly a spiral, just like so. So we only want 3 frames. We don't need 4, so we can go ahead and delete this one, and then we're gonna get the other frames. So we got that one. Then, of course, this one appears that that's the top, so we want to match it as much as possible to make a circle. And we're going to do the same with the feet. There we go. I'm just going off of what I can remember from swimming, so if you think you can do a more realistic one, go ahead, find those references, get it all nicely made. But I think this is good for now. So I'm gonna open the properties of the timeline. I'm gonna make it loop, of course. Then I'm going to shrink it down until it hits this last keyframe. And I'm going to try to make these keyframes equidistant from each other, so it's the same distance between each keyframe. Doesn't really matter if you do it or not, but it should make the animation play a little bit more smoothly. And I think we can actually instead of just turning off all default animations, we can turn off default or procedural walk instead. We just want to turn off the procedural walk. We don't want to turn off procedural animation. So this way we'll still get like breathing effects on the player. Alright. And next we want to smoothly transition between these two animations. I haven't gotten this one done yet, but let's do that first. So we're going to go to Logic and Processing, and we're going to go to Signal Manipulator. And this is just going to smooth out our animation. And I'm going to say about a second to smooth fall and smooth rise. And we're going to copy it because we want it for both of these. And of course I'm going to hook it up to the timelines. Second timeline, we might as well set it to loop now as well. And I think this one is going to be a little bit faster, but I'm going to start it out pretty long because I know that there's going to be a lot of frames. At least quite a few frames. I'm going to go ahead and set up them to have linear, doing this with L1 and X. And we're on the second frame already. Right. Doing, I think it's called butterfly strokes, I'm not sure. So we would want them to move forward like this, and then like this. I think that's actually enough frames. So if we delete this, and then move this one back. I actually want to delete this because this is going to be our last frame as well. And I want it to be about right here. Makes more sense. And this is going to be copied, of course, to the end here. It's going to be a smaller animation or shorter one. I think that looks good. And then we want to do something similar with the feet. So, well, our feet are going to be splashing up and down, kind of. So one's going to go up and one is going to go down. So we'll have this one. We want to turn off Puppet Mirror. This one will go down and this one will go up. Or other way, vice versa. Alright, and then next, that works, and then we want to go down and up. Pretty much the same amount each. Again, I'm no expert at what swimming looks like, so if you don't think this is what swimming is, then you can go ahead and make your own swimming animation. Alright, so I think that looks good for now. It just depends on how fast it is. I'd say that's fine. May want to give some verticality to the front though, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna do this, maybe a little bit of up and down movement. Just to give a little bit of a more natural feel to it. There we go. Well, looks good to me. It is a bit slow. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I'm just going to move the keyframes closer together. Alright, let's see how that looks. It's a bit too fast. I'm just being a little bit too picky about it, I guess. That looks fine. How about I move the torso up and down a little bit? Alright. Looks pretty good to me. Alright, and now we want to find out a way to turn on these animations. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get our speed. So we're going to go to Gadgets, Sensors and Input, and we're going to get a movement sensor. And this is going to detect when we are moving. So this is going to say basically if we are moving in any direction besides Y, which is up and down, then we are going to activate our swimming animation. But the thing is that we are basically only wanting to get our forward speed because we don't want to get our up and down speed. So basically whenever you push any direction in the stick, you are facing that direction. So you're going to go ahead and get the forward speed constantly, pretty much. So we're going to get local space. And that should... I'm not sure where the... Usually you would get thing for it. But yeah, we're going for... Usually you would get like an icon, or a gizmo, I mean. So we want to get the Z speed. And as long as that is greater than 0, and we are swimming, so our swimming tag is detected, then we are going to go ahead and play our swimming animation. But if we're only in the swimming and our speed isn't greater than 0, then we are going to not swim. I mean, not play the swimming animation. So I'm going to get a calculator out from our logic and processing section. This is basically saying if our speed is greater, if our speed is greater than 0, then we are going to play the animation. So we open up the property, set it to greater than. Again, this is left side, and then this is right side. So if left side is greater than right side, then we output a signal of 1. So if A is greater than B, 1. So if our speed, which is going to be our z-axis speed, velocity, that's going to go into A. So if A is greater than 0, because B is nothing, as you can see, then we are going to swim. So I'm going to get an AND gate now. I'm just going to copy one that we already have. And I'm going to go ahead and hook this up to our keyframes here, our keyframe, and our signal manipulator. I'm also going to get another AND gate, and I'm going to plug that into our other keyframe for just idling, and then our other signal manipulator. Then I'm going to plug in our swimming tag to both our AND gates. And let's see here. Let me try to organize the wires a little bit so it's not as messy. Alright. And then our greater than calculator is going to plug into our swimming animation, and then we're going to get a NOT gate, and I think we already have one. So when we are not moving around, then we can play the idle animation, like so. Alright, let's see how that looks. Here we go. I think our idle time is a bit, I mean not idle, but transition time is a bit too high. As in, like, the smoothing. And I also don't like that camera. That's because of the fall height, basically. It's pretty deep. So the game thinks we're falling when we're not. Alright. So one last thing, I guess, is, well, some sounds, and let's see, we also want to decrease the falling time and the rise. So I'm going to do half a second instead of 1 second for both of these signal manipulators. And I am going to, let's see here, we're going to go to modes, sound mode. Let's search for some water sounds. So instruments, no, sound effects. Where's sound effects? There it is. Let's see. Characters, maybe. No, these are just. Probably this boss, water loops. I'm using light water ripples for our I'm gonna clip it a little bit actually as well. I'm gonna go in here because I don't like that loud sound right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip it down to like this. So now we have just some light water ripples for our animation, and of course I'm gonna make it loop till the end. And then our swimming animation, let's get a more heavy sound effect. I'll do this, and I'll lower the sound a little bit. And also one last thing, actually, before we do any more sound stuff. I forgot that we also can set the speed of our swimming animation. So if we get a calculator, we know that our maximum speed for moving around is 3.5 meters a second. So what we can do is we can take our velocity, I'll put it to our new calculator, A, and we're going to divide our velocity by our maximum movement speed underwater, which is 3.5. So now we should get a 0 to 1 value, which we're going to plug into our playback speed right here in our swimming timeline. So just output the results into our playback speed, and instead of overwrite, we're going to set to modulate. Alright, and I think we have all the sounds we want, so I'm going to get an underwater sound actually. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the search, because there was a really nice one there. Right here. We can use this, give us a little bit more atmosphere for going underwater. Alright. So now we should have some nice underwater effects when we swim. Or sound effects. Like so. You can see our animation is moving a bit slower when we move slower. There we go. Now we got swimming. I hope you all enjoyed the tutorial. It's been about an hour long. Quite a ride that we got here. So yeah, if you want to see more tutorials like this, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any tutorial ideas, go ahead and drop those in the comments. Also, I got a Patreon, so if you want to support me, or if you want direct help from me in my private Discord server for my patrons, and of course, respected members of the Dreams community, then go ahead and support me on there, and you can join in to the Discord server immediately. Also, I'm planning on releasing videos on Patreon a little bit earlier. I'm not sure when I'm going to start doing that, but I'm thinking about doing it. So, yeah, if you want any of those perks, my Patreon link is in the description. Don't forget to have a great day. Like, comment, subscribe. Leave your ideas for videos and tutorials and of the sort. Alright, bye. Peace out. Have a nice day.